Welcome to the Agency Insider Show. I'm your host, Navneet Kaushal. Today we have a very special guest, Jason Hennessey, an international recognized SEO expert, the founder of Hennessey Digital, and a successful entrepreneur who has scaled his agency to a remarkable height. Jason, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Before diving into the core of our conversation, let's briefly discuss your journey. You have been a pioneer in SEO and digital marketing for decades. For our listeners who might not be familiar, could you share your stories and how you get started in this field?
Yeah, sure. I got started doing SEO back in 2001. So over 2 decades now. My journey started in the world of SEO just as a pure need. I built a website for a small business that I had, learned that I quickly needed to get it to rank if I wanted to bring traffic to it. And so SEO was just more of a need. It turned into a curiosity, then it turned into a passion, and then an obsession, I guess, after that. And then built an agency. I sold my first agency and started this agency about 10 years ago and have just been growing and scaling it over the years.
That's good. So let's talk more about about the foundational steps you took when building your first agency. What were some of the most critical early lessons you learned about client acquisition and retention?
Yeah, sure. So I think when I first started my first agency, I think the easy part for me was getting our first couple clients. Usually that's the hard part when somebody's starting an agency, is the sales side. My agency was born out of a presentation that I gave to a group of lawyers in the United States. I had no intention of starting an agency. I basically got on stage for about 45 minutes, explained to them what they need to do if they wanted to, rank higher on Google and get more traffic. And as a result of that 45-minute presentation, I had about 7 lawyers approach me to see if I could help them with their SEO. And so that was the genesis of my first agency. I left that presentation with like about 5 or 6 clients. Right? And so from there, then it really started the process of like learning how to scale and how to build a case study and how to get results and how to do reporting and all of the other stuff, how to hire the right people. And so built that agency up for about, I think probably about 6 or 7 years, and then I sold my interest in that agency to my partner, took a leave of absence, a little sabbatical, and then I started my second agency. But I think you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you just have to accept that when you're building an agency. You just have to accept all your failures and know that that is the stepping stone to kind of getting to the next step, right? So that's one thing. If there's anybody listening to the podcast that wants some words of wisdom, is to embrace your failures, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Running my agency for more than 20 years, I would agree with that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you navigate challenges like resources limitations, managing growth while maintaining quality and building brand recognition?
Yeah, you just have to work within your means, I guess, right? So like when you're first starting out, you don't have, big budgets to hire the best people in the world, right? So, during those times you're spending a lot more of your time, doing a lot of the tasks that you would maybe later on kind of outsource to people that are a little bit more competent than you are at those tasks. So that's just it. You kind of have to work within your means. And as you continue to get more clients, that gives you more budget, I guess, to hire and recruit people that are more capable, I guess, at the task than you are. Early on, you're having to, bring on people that might not necessarily be the perfect person for the role, and so you're having to train those people, right? So you might only be able to afford an intern or somebody that's fresh out of college, right? And so they don't bring like real wisdom of fulfilling the needs of that particular role, right, with years and years of experience. So instead, you're training them to be, better at that specific role, right? And so sometimes you find some diamonds in the rough, by bringing in, interns and entry level people who will grow with you. And then later on, as you get more clients, that's when you start to really kind of bring in, I guess, people that have more experience that can help you grow a little bit faster than you could.
Right, right. Now, in your recent presentation at Chiang Mai SEO, you emphasize creating systems and processes. So, can you share a specific system or process that was a game changer for your business?
Yeah, I think for one, not having me do the systems and process is right. Is that, like usually most CEOs, we have ADHD, right? There's all kinds of like, I call them superpowers, right? Some people will classify them as negative characteristics, right? But it's just who you are, right? And so replacing me with somebody that actually is better at putting systems and processes in place is extremely valuable. The other thing I would say is, when I was first started out, like I didn't operate with goals, right? Like it was just every day was a new journey, and wherever we ended up is where we ended up, right? And so when I brought in a strong leadership team, that's when they helped me see that, hey, listen, we need a vision, right? Not only do we need a vision, we need to make sure that the whole company is aligned to your vision, right? And so we need to build goals, that make sure that we're actually hitting, the points of the vision along the way. And so, I brought in a good leadership team. I developed the vision, and they helped me kind of execute it and setting up goals. And so over the past 10 years, we've been kind of really growing and hitting all of these goals. And it's been a great journey, right? But it's been a testament to the whole team and not just me. And so I'd say that was one. And the other one was, putting learning and development in place. So, there comes a point where, you're growing so fast that you're recruiting people. And so you have to make sure that everybody that you bring into the organization has the proper training, and the proper support to be successful in their individual roles, right?
So, how large is your team now?
I think we're about 130 full-time employees, I'd say, across the whole company. Yeah.
So, are they remote or they work in the office, or how does it?
Yeah. So my agency was set up by design as a remote agency, even well before COVID. I know a lot of companies had to pivot during COVID and have people start working remotely. We set it up that way from the beginning, just because like I didn't want to have to recruit world-class talent from a 5-mile radius of one office building in some city, right, in the United States, right? So we set it up. It was always going to be remote. We were using Skype, I think, initially, and then we transitioned over to Zoom and Slack. And but we have a great setup now, and we've got people everywhere, literally all over the world and domestically within the United States.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mhm.
Now, you also, I mean, I've seen a lot of your talks and where you emphasize the importance of taking care of your employees. How do you cultivate a positive company culture, especially in a remote working environment?
Yeah, I think it comes from the top, right? So, I think my attitude is everything. We try to operate in an environment where there's, no blame, right? So like people are going to make mistakes. You don't have to be worried about getting fired because you made one mistake, right? Sometimes when people make a mistake, they're just kind of bringing a problem to the surface that should have been fixed regardless, right? People don't fail, systems fail, right? And so,
Right.
you know, when you have that type of mentality, people feel encouraged to do their best, right? Knowing that they're not always going to be successful, but the lessons that we learn, we then grow from it. And so from there, and we do a lot of other things too, to kind of make sure that we've got culture. We got core values that we set, and it's not one of those core values that it's just a bunch of words and nobody ever looks at it again. You know what I mean? Like our core values, we live and die by our core values. In fact, I fired a client recently because the client did not live up to our core values, and this was a big client. And so I think I shared that from stage at Chiang
Yeah.
Mai as well. Our big thing is like, don't have fun, don't be a jerk, right? And so we had a client that was not it wasn't fun to work with, and he was not really being nice to our staff. And so I had to step up and do something about it so that, I live the core values, right? And my staff sees that. And so anyway, that's just it, setting core values, building a culture, and then taking care of your employees, the best that you can take care of them.
Okay. Now, of course, leadership play a crucial role in scaling. You also mentioned hiring a leadership team and business coach as pivotal moves. How
Mhm.
did you determine the right people to bring on board, and what impact these have on your operations?
Yeah. So in this particular part of the company as I was growing, I got really lucky, to be honest with you, because it's not easy to find the right executive leadership team. And so I got introduced to a guy by the name of Scott Schrum, who's our COO and president of the organization, through a mutual friend. The timing was perfect. He was, looking for his next opportunity. He was working at his organization for about 12 years, I think, before this. And he helped grow that company and brought them to an exit. And so he didn't want to stick around with the new owner. And so he was just looking for his new role. I got connected. We had lunch. We hit it off. And then he ended up coming over and joining my company as our COO and president. And then from there, a couple months later, he then recruited his old CFO that he worked with. So she also came over. And so they had worked together for about 10 or 11 years together at that organization. And then a couple months later, we then recruited their CTO as well. And I got like a 3-for-1 package, and they all had the experience and camaraderie of working together for like over a decade. And so that was great. And then from there, they helped me establish just the foundation of how to really, turn what I would say would be more of like a lifestyle business into more of an enterprise operation, I guess. Yeah.
So I also asked one of our group for the Indian SEO who were in Chiang Mai that because your talk in Chiang Mai went little long and we couldn't ask any questions. So I said, this is the time I'll ask on your behalf. So
There
here
you
is
go.
one coming on their behalf. So how do you stay so grounded even after tremendous growth in?
I think, always remember where you come from. For me, like I didn't come from wealth, everything that I built, always came from a lot of hard work, and just, tireless passion, I guess. And so, I wake up every day with a sense of gratitude, optimistic by nature, usually a positive person. And so, I think those are some of the characteristics that I guess I just have naturally. I've always had those my entire life, regardless of how much money was in my bank account, right? And so I don't think that'll ever change. And so, I remain just a positive, humble person, and that's just who I am by nature, I guess.
That's very rare quality because sometimes people, when get too much of a wealth, it goes in their head. So
Yeah, I see it for sure.
right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about innovation and creativity. You have spoken previously about the importance of balancing productivity and creativity in other talks. In the digital marketing world, where data often drive decisions, how do you foster creativity within your team and process?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that we do. For me, first importantly, like I try to block off at least one day per week, sometimes two, where I don't put anything on my schedule, and that allows me just kind of a free day where I can just show up and not be at the mercy of Zoom calls and internal meetings and stuff, because it's really hard to kind of be creative when you are, on a Zoom call, on this call, on that call, right? So like sometimes you just need to free your mind, right? And so I think, that's for me, like that's where I get most of my creativity. As for the team, we do things. So like for instance, we have what we call like a hackathon once a year. And that's where we let our whole engineering team spend like a full week just being creative, right? So like looking at like what are some of the inefficiencies, what are some of the problems within the organization, how can we solve those, right? And so we give our engineering team like a full week to kind of develop, whatever it is technology that they want to develop, and then they pitch it to us, right? And then from there, based on the MVPs that they create in the short period of time, will then
Right.
put financial resources behind those ideas, right? So we let their creativity kind of help booster and grow the organization as well.
All right.
Mm.
Now, what role does technology play in driving innovation in your agency? And can you highlight any tool or strategies you have implemented recently that have had a significant impact?
Sure. Yeah. So based on that hackathon that I was just talking about, a couple of our engineers thought that it would be a great way to innovate by leveraging AI to take a website that is, indexed in English and basically build automation to convert the website to multiple languages using AI, right? So, so that is something that came by way of innovation and creativity through our team, right? It wasn't my idea. And so, next thing you know, they developed like a prototype, they pitched it to us, we put resources behind it. And now we have a great product where, we can take a website that's in English, maybe there's 1,000 pages that's indexed in English on Google, use AI so that, all of the internal links kind of get changed from English to, let's just say, Spanish. All of the URL structure, the hreflang tags, right? So like basically creates like a picture perfect,
Right.
translation of a website. And the cool thing about it is when we go and we update a English page, it'll automatically convert that update to Spanish, right? So anyway, I thought that was kind of a cool idea. And there's so many different other things that kind of come as way of leveraging technology for sure.
Now, of course, Hennessey Digital has developed several proprietary tools. And important do you think in today's world technological innovation is for an SEO agency?
Oh, I think in the only way for us to be able to scale, we had to incorporate technology because it's too much to manage, when there's so many different people touching multiple websites and writing content and editing content and getting it to the client for approval and getting it back, right? I mean, there's a lot of places where you can make mistakes. And so we basically started to develop our own technology using software, which I think is a big part of the reason on why we can scale. If we didn't do that, we might not have a good retention, right? Because like there's be too many mistakes or there'd be too many people touching websites where, one person's fixing it, another person's breaking something else, right? So we invest heavily in technology. I want to say we probably have maybe like 10 or 12 people just in our systems team, with a product manager, right? And so they're just working on building better infrastructure to allow us to be more efficient and effective leveraging softwares.
Okay, I also know you have a WordPress speed tool which increases the WordPress, right?
Yeah, we
So,
do. That's called POWA, POWA, and we
okay,
built that just as a need. A lot of the third party tools that we were using, for whatever reason, it would work perfectly this way, but on this website it wouldn't, and it would break this website. And we're like, you know what, like we can continue to like try to patch this, or we could try to like invest time in building our own speed tool. And so yeah, we made that investment and spent a lot of money developing it, but now we've got a great tool that we can use internally for our own clients that help with caching and indexing and page speed, and passing core web vitals as well. Yeah.
okay. Now, you have often talked about turning clients into case studies. Can you walk us through how you effectively leverage these case studies to build momentum?
Yeah. Yeah, I think as you get a client, right, the goal is to retain that client, right? And I think the best way to retain that client is to manage expectations up front so that both the agency and the client are on the same page in terms of like what does success look like, and then doing everything that you can to try to meet or exceed the expectations of the client, right? And so early on, right, you don't have the answers, right? You're doing a lot of
Right.
experimentation, right? Like, is this content strategy going to work? Is this internal linking strategy going to work? Is this, inbound linking strategy going to work? Right. And so through the experimentations that you do, you start to see results. And then from there, hopefully you document the strategy so that you can kind of get those same results for another client. And you start to build a case study and you start to build a strategy. Right. And then that case study and that strategy becomes your calling card to get new clients, right? So sometimes if you do some marketing or somebody recommends you, you get on a call with them and you just basically are showing them what you've done for these other clients. And this is the strategy that you used, and this is why it's effective. And then from there, that just becomes, part of your sales process. And so it helps you to, sell new clients while keeping the clients that you have happy because it's that case study. And then it just becomes a balancing act of like managing, the retention and making sure that all of your clients continue to be happy while also bringing in new business. And that becomes the game of running an agency, really, right? You're trying to keep current clients happy and you're trying to get new clients, trying to keep current clients happy, trying to get new clients. And doesn't always work that way. You might lose a client, right? Or you might have a month where you can't get a new client, right? And it's like, now you're just kind of managing that process, right?
Okay. Now, Jason, one of your key achievements is scaling Hennessey Digital to an eight-figure business.
Mm,
For many agency owners, the leap from six or seven figures to eight seems daunting.
mm.
Could you break down the core strategies that help you scale so significantly?
Yeah. So, back to earlier on in the conversation, having a vision, right? So first of all,
Right.
having a very clear vision. Like you can go to Hennessey.com and then click on about, and then there's a section that says where we're going. And then you can see my vision. Like we posted on our website, right? So that's the vision. I created that vision 3 years ago. I'll be creating my new vision here soon, that will take us to 2027. And then once you have a vision, then having a good leadership team to help you build out that vision, right? And putting KPIs in place and putting goals in place, bringing on, a sales team to help sell, bringing on a good mid-level management team, right, to make sure that everything is all well organized and properly managed. And then from there, it's just, everything comes down to building the reputation. Like we have a really good reputation in the marketplace because we have a strategy that works, we get results, and we don't mismanage expectations. Like, we'll tell a client that doesn't have the right budget to work with us that, unfortunately it won't work, right? So like we'll say no to prospects, just because we'd rather preserve our reputation, right? I'd rather say no to somebody than say yes, and then 4 months down the road they're not happy with us, they're firing us, and then they're spreading that word online with bad reviews and stuff like that, right? So, I take our reputation very seriously, and when you have a good reputation, that spreads, right? People start talking about you and then you start to grow as a result of that, right? So I think, I wouldn't say it like it was by design. I just think that we made a lot of the right decisions early on and we just built a good agency that gets good results with a good reputation.
Okay. So when you created your vision 3 years back, was scaling to eight-figure was one of the part of the vision then?
It was, yeah. I mean, like it was very exact. I said that, in 3 years, I wanted to have 5 million in EBITDA, right? Like that was like it's spelled out in the financial part of our vision. I think at the time I said that our top line revenue was going to be like $32 million, right? And I said we were going to have a lot more people working for us, right? And so we were a lot more efficient and effective, right? We still hit like the 5 million. We just missed it. We'll come in at like $4.8 million this year in profit and EBITDA, but we only needed to do like 20 million in revenue, right? So we were a lot more efficient and we didn't need as many people to hit that. But yeah, I was very clear on where we were going to be financially within that vivid vision for sure.
All right. Now, every entrepreneur journey has its ups and downs. Looking back, what were some of the toughest challenges you faced while scaling your agency and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I think part of our growth is there was a time, I think it was like 3 years ago, maybe, where we had like a very large client that was paying us north of $100,000 per month. So a very, very large client. And so we were working with that client for probably about 7 years, and we really kind of helped them grow. It was a law firm, helped grow their law firm to the point where they got acquired, right? And so somebody bought their firm, and we were very instrumental in helping that happen. And so when the new owners came in, they didn't want to spend $100,000 a month on SEO anymore, and so they had a plan in place where they're going to kind of get rid of us and maybe either bring that in house or hire another agency for cheaper. And so it was like November, I think, and we got notice, and so that hurt us, right? Because that was $100,000 in revenue, and at the time, I want to say it made up, maybe like 15% of our total revenue, something like that. It was like, and so I don't think of that high, but it was some high number like that. And so it was really unfortunate, right? And so we had to make like cuts like in November, like right before holidays, right? Because we weren't expecting that. And so I think that was one of the big lessons that we faced is, now we're very strategic about taking on clients that are going to be too big, that could be a risk factor, right, in the future, because it's never
Right.
fun to have to make like cuts around holidays or whatever, when it's outside of your control like that. So I think
Right.
just kind of growing at the right pace and not making sure that there's any one client that could really put you out of business.
Yeah, I think having one or two clients is always, I mean, it will give me a sleepless night. Touch wood. I never had that situation, but yeah, absolutely. Now, you also highlight the importance of learning from failures. Of course, one of the example you shared. So can you share some other specific instance where a failure turned into a valuable learning experience?
Yeah. So let's see here. So many, so many, so many. I think, just for one, just in which the way we were set up as an agency, I look at it like this, right? Like if you're running an SEO agency, there's usually three buckets, right? There's the first bucket of like somebody's going to make a mistake on a website, whether it's, they misspell a word or they publish the page using the wrong URL or they send a broken link somewhere, right? There's somebody making a mistake, right? And that just happens, right? Then you have somebody else that comes in that like audits the work and they diagnose the mistake, right? So again, there was a failure, somebody's diagnosing it, and then there's somebody else that comes in and they're an engineer and they fix the mistake, right? You create a ticket to get it fixed. And so there's this cycle of like make a mistake, diagnose the mistake, fix the mistake, make a mistake, diagnose the mistake, fix the mistake, right? And so that's the whole world of SEO, really. I mean, that's our whole world of what we do. And so that is something that we looked at, like, what can we do? How can we create systems and processes so that we can avoid that in the future? And so now we have a crawler that we built that basically audits the work that we do. It puts preventative measures in place so that people don't make mistakes. And it automates the creation of tickets to fix things, right? So we've kind of automated that process now. And so that has been a big lesson that we've learned from a failure.
All right. And I'm sure it saves a lot of time as well.
It does, yes.
Now, managing time is another area where many agency owners struggle. What advice would you give on balancing personal time with professional growth?
Yeah, that takes time. I think, like really won't have a balanced life when you're just getting started. It's unfortunate, but you're going to be working late hours and long hours. I mean, you just have to make a lot of sacrifices just because you don't have, if you're bootstrapping a business, you're not going to have, the team or resources to have people do stuff for you. Right. So, but over time, once you make the right decisions and you start to grow your revenue and you reinvest some of that profit into more people, then you're finding, the time, you're finding the resources to buy back more of your time. Right. That was a big part of my presentation in Chiang Mai was, a lot of time you're spending your time, right, to make money, right, and then later on you're spending your money to buy back your time, right, and it's just a balancing act. So like I said, like first 3 years of building a business, maybe longer, you're going to be working really hard and you're going to be working late hours, and that's just par for the course. But if you make some of the right decisions later on, then you'll have more time and you'll have people in place that are more capable at these tasks than you are. So
Right. Now, let's talk, a bit about advising the aspiring agency owners. You've been reverse engineering the Google algorithm since 2001. How has SEO evolved over the past 2 decades? And
yeah,
especially now?
good question. I think a lot of the foundational stuff is kind of remains the same, right? Writing content that satisfies the intent of what people are searching for, right? Building the popularity of the website, by way of links, and then, having a good foundation with, technical SEO, right? And don't get me wrong, like along the way, like, earlier on, like way back, like let's just call it like 15, 20 years ago, it was a lot less competitive, right? So like you do things that move the needle faster, right? There used to be a time where, keyword density mattered, right?
Right.
Where, if you really wanted to rank for keyword, you made sure that that keyword was in there and that the density was 14, 15%, and that you bolded things, right? You know what I mean? Like nowadays, you don't really have to kind of do that. In fact, that probably would have an opposite effect on it, right? Back in the day, you could drive a lot of spammy links to pages and push the needle, right? Whereas
Right.
nowadays that will tend to hurt you instead of help you, so like it's just been this evolution of different strategies and tactics, but at the core I would say, the foundation has always remained the same, right? Publish content that people really, want to see, that addresses their questions, boost the popularity of the website and the domain, and just have a good technical infrastructure.
Now, a lot of these days we hear that the backlinks are dead, although I am against it. And you have quite often recently showcased how you are winning the SERPs with the good content. Especially, I think link is the very major part to those getting you rankings for this law related keywords. So what is
Yeah.
your take on?
Yeah, no. Anybody that says backlinks is dead or it doesn't work anymore, I think you're like on a different planet. I don't know where that comes from. Like that's it. Google is their whole algorithm is built upon PageRank, right? And so, gaining popularity to your website is such a strong signal. And so, we're targeting the keyword law firm SEO right now.
Right.
Been putting a big push towards that. We've got a good internal link strategy. We built out our silos properly on our website. And, now we're just trying to get the strongest links to come back to it. And some of those strong links come by way of me, publishing articles on sites like entrepreneur.com or Rolling Stone magazine or Forbes or Newsweek, right? Like I contribute to a lot of those websites because I know that, my page has a link back to my website, right? And then we're doing a lot of digital PR right now. So we're using data. So there's just a combination of different strategies that we use. Me going on podcasts like this, right? Where, it might get published on a website and then it links back to us, right? It's all
Right.
by design, right? It's to boost the relevancy of the links and the popularity of the domain, right?
So in last 2 years, when we got hit by all these AI, has your approach changed in terms of delivering SEO or doing SEO, or it's more or less same?
No, we're definitely leveraging AI more. It's helped our especially our content team be a lot more efficient and effective. So like they're leveraging, you know, both, ChatGPT, they're leveraging tools like Phrase and Surfer. They are optimizing pages with a better chance of ranking, leveraging this AI. And then we're just looking at the results and measuring things, and then from there building new systems and processes to make sure that every new piece of content follows the same kind of guidance, I guess.
Okay. Now, a recent trend which we see, especially in our agency, some of our clients start using ChatGPT, putting all SEO into it and getting advice from it and say, why are you not doing this or why are you not doing this? So have you reached that point or no? where
We,
where clients are coming with ChatGPT SEO suggestion and pushing that to you?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit. A lot of times, like the clients that we work with, they just want us to kind of be their strategic partner, and we've built the confidence in working with them over the years that, a lot of times they don't necessarily question the strategies or tactics. We will get, clients that, will come to us and have a question and stuff like that. And, a lot of times we handle the question and we're open. Don't get us wrong. I mean, it's not like we just closed environment and anything that we're saying, no, 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 we're not going to do that. If a client comes to us with like an idea, like we're certainly open to that. And, and heck, we can learn from them just as much as they can learn from us. So, but it's not like we're just closed off and we get offended as a result of it. But we don't necessarily see that much,
Okay.
requests like that.
Okay. Now, since of course a lot of people now start talking that SEO is not something a sustainable business model, diversify, diversify, diversify. So over the last 2 years, has Hennessey Digital started diversifying into more than SEO, or do you have a roadmap for that?
Yeah. No, I think we've always kind of had a plan for that. There's different multi-channels that you should be leveraging to bring in new business to your for us, we work with law firms, right? So some of those channels include SEO, right? That's one channel. There's pay-per-click, there's paid social, there's organic social, TV advertising, there's radio, there's billboards, right? There's so many different ways to kind of market themselves, right? And so I would say we're really good at the SEO. We do pay-per-click as well. We do some we do some paid social. We do website development, design, right? So, but when it comes to like some of the traditional offline, like TV, radio, we've got good partners that we refer out that get good results there. But yeah, it's definitely you have to spread your budget to really grow if you want to take on more market share. It's just a proper way of doing it.
So are you doing something related to AI agents or not yet?
We're doing some experimentation right now for sure. Brought in a product manager that's going to be kind of spearheading that and working with our systems team to build out some different AI agents and such. So, but it's still, I would say, the first inning, I guess, if you will, on that for us.
Okay, back to SEO. Can you share an example of a particularly challenging SEO problem you have solved and how you approached it? I know one you said with the ticketing system, but is there any other example you can share?
I think like for example, internal links. I think that could be a huge advantage or a huge disadvantage if executed correctly or incorrectly. For years and years and years, we really didn't have systems and processes in place. So like you have just somebody that's writing content and they're just naturally just linking to pages using anchor text that they feel is relevant. And so sometimes you really start to mess up a strategy, right? So like if you're linking to a blog post, right, using the word car accident lawyer, whereas you have a car accident lawyer page, right? You're basically sending the wrong signals to Google, right? Saying, hey, here's the page that I want to nominate for car accident lawyer, and you're linking to a blog post, whereas the real page is your transactional page, right? And so just over the years, you have just so many different writers and bloggers that are randomly linking to things using the wrong words and such. And so that creates a challenge, but it also creates an opportunity, right? So when you come in and you fix that stuff, boy, do you see like nice lifts. So we put systems and processes in place using AI and technology to catch those mistakes and automate and fix a lot of that so that we don't have a big mess with internal links. That's been a big push for us over the past year.
Okay. Now, many of our listeners are agency owners or aspiring entrepreneurs. What advice would you give to someone starting an agency today in a competitive digital landscape?
Yeah. I would say, just kind of, grow within reason, right? Don't look at trying to scale and grow so fast, because I think you really sacrifice the quality, right? Trying to get quantity, right? So, just kind of grow within reason, get one client, like I said, turn that one client into the best case study that you can turn it into. Then create systems and processes on what you did to get that case study to where it is. And then
Okay.
from there, then use that case study to get a second client. And then make sure you do the same thing for that second client. Because it's really easy to get 10 clients quickly. And then the quality suffers because you're not building systems and processes. You're too busy selling and you don't have the right resources and support to kind of like execute the strategy. And so then your reputation gets tarnished, the quality is not good, and you start losing clients just as fast as you're gaining them. And so
Right.
I think that's a big problem that most agencies have is they can't retain the clients, just because the quality or the expectations are just misaligned. So
Okay. Now, what advice would you give to agency owners who are struggling to scale beyond 1 million revenue mark? Will this be a similar advice or slightly different?
yeah, usually if you're trying to scale past 1 million, I'd say that you're probably the constraint. You're probably the reason why you're not able to scale. And it's probably because you're a control freak. I was, you know what I mean? Like, nobody can do it better than you can, right? At least that's the
Okay.
mentality. But in order to kind of get past 1 million, you're going to have to reinvest some of your profit into hiring people. It might be a salesperson, it might be an operations person, depending on what you're better at, right? If you're better at operations and building out the strategy and systems, to then put your time and intention on that and then hire a salesperson to go sell, right? Or if you're better at sales, then you do the selling, you hire an operations person to build out the systems and processes. I would say that's probably you're at a point in your agency where you need to kind of make that decision. Do I focus on operations or do I focus on sales, and then replace yourself in that other role?
So when you also mentioned previously that you built a strong sales team. So what core skills or primary value you look when you are hiring a sales guy?
Yeah. I think it's somebody that's very likable. I think that communicates effectively. In my case, like the person, the two people that were hired to be in sales roles at my organization, they weren't like 20-year veterans that knew SEO, and they were just very likable people that communicated well, that I was able to teach my way of selling, leveraging case studies, using the tools, like using the exact formula. And so I think that's it. People like to do business with those that they like trust, right? And so that are likable. And so that would be most important, would be finding somebody that, if you were on the other end of that call and they were trying to sell you, would you feel good about this decision? Would you trust this person on the other end? Right. And then from there, just teach them the SEO side.
Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
that's a good advice. Now, if you were to rebuild your agency from scratch today, what would you do differently based on what you know now?
Yeah. So I probably would have gotten a coach sooner, just because I think that would have prevented me from making some of the mistakes that I was making earlier on. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing would be I would have gotten an executive assistant a lot sooner as well, just because I was probably doing a lot of tasks that I should have been doing early on. I was kind of spending a lot of my time in my email, like might have been like 6 hours a day just in email, right? When you're doing that, how do you really kind of grow, right? And so that would have been the second thing. And then the third thing would have been from there, if I had an executive assistant, they would have been able to see that I could replace myself in different roles. And I would have probably hired people a lot sooner to replace myself in specific roles that I wasn't even the best to be doing in the first place.
All right. Now, aren't the business coaches expensive to hire?
Yeah, business coaches are expensive, right? So, but you can probably find a business coach that is, more within your means, right? Like you don't necessarily need to find the best business coach right away. You can just find a coach that, is able to kind of, take you to the next level. And as you continue to grow, then you might have to replace your business coach, right? The business coach that you have now might have experience growing an agency to $1 million, right? But then you get to 5 million, right? You might have surpassed your business coach, right? Now you need a business coach that has successfully taken an agency from 5 million to 20 million, right? So, and those coaches are probably going to be more experienced because they're more expensive because their time is more valuable, right?
I know you earlier talked about which specific course you wanted to have, so you went after it. But how do other people find coach? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I think you follow people on social media, you interact, I would just say, find somebody that you think could help solve your problem, somebody that's already done it before. Maybe they're not a coach, right? But maybe you've seen what they've done and you aspire to be like them, and maybe you can reach out to them and say, "Hey, I know this is an off the wall question, but I've been following you for 5 years and I really look up to what you've done and what you've built. Would you be open to maybe spending an hour a month with me if I paid you to help coach me so I could ask you questions?" Right. So I would say just kind of, manifest who it is that you want to be a coach, and then just reach out to that person.
Okay, that's a good advice because a lot of people get stuck. They don't know who to ask, where to ask. So, of course, yeah. All right. Now, SEO and digital marketing continues to evolve. How can agencies stay ahead of the curve in such a fast-paced environment?
Um, you need to keep up with it yourself. So, like, at nighttime, I'm reading, different articles about, Google updates, or, things that are taking place within our industry. Looking on LinkedIn, I'm looking at different case studies, I'm looking at new tools, we're experimenting with new tools. I think it really comes down to just keeping up with the industry. And that comes from still having a passion about it, right? I think if this is your passion, right, you're going to like read this stuff, you're going to be interested in it, you're going to go to Chiang Mai, you're going to network with people, you're going to, right? If you're just doing this strictly for the business side of it, you're going to get past with people that are more passionate about the subject, right?
Right, right. With this, we come to the last segment of our show, which is rapid fire round. So I'm going to ask you a question and you're just going to answer what comes in the top of your mind. So are you
Sure.
ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the best piece of business advice you have ever received?
Get an executive assistant. It literally divides your time in half and you could be a lot more effective.
What's your go-to productivity hack?
A go-to productivity hack is finding a day of the week just to kind of be, just to be creative. I think a lot of my productivity comes from me being creative.
That blocking one day, which you mentioned, right? All right, all right. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Probably Walt Disney, just because he was a big dreamer and he was able to build something that just kind of grew into something bigger than he was.
Right, right. What's a book that has significantly influenced your business approach?
There's a book called Rework. It's from the founders of Basecamp. Yeah, I'm not sure if you read it, but it's very short chapters and it's concise, and I think it was a really good book.
Very small, concise, nicely placed book, right? I
Yeah,
love that, right? It's no fluff, all real thing, right?
exactly right. Yeah.
And what's one myth you would like to debunk right now?
That SEO is dead. I'd say that's been resurfacing every year since I've been
Yes.
in SEO. Yeah.
Okay. Jason, this has been an insightful conversation. Before we wrap up, can you share what's next for you and Hennessey Digital? And are there any exciting projects or initiatives in the pipeline?
So I think, what's next for us is, it's a new journey for us. Like, we're trying to grow from like 20 million to 50 million, in revenue. And so that's a journey that I have never been on. And so I expect that we'll make a lot of mistakes and we will learn and we will grow, but I'm really excited for it. And I know that AI and automation is going to be a big part of that. And, we'll be continuing to innovate with new technology for sure.
Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
Sure. So I think I'm most active on LinkedIn and Instagram. I publish videos every single day on Instagram. I share some of my business lessons and wisdom on LinkedIn. And then personally, if you want to learn more about like my personal journey with family and stuff, Facebook is probably the best place for that.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Jason. It's been a pleasure having you on the Agency Insider Show.
Thank you so
And,
much. Appreciate it.
and for our audience, if you find value in today's discussion, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more industry insights in our upcoming episodes. Until next time, thank you.